Hi, everyone, and welcome back. It's Racheal. I want to ask you a question to start today, and I want you to actually answer it out loud or in your head. Either is fine. When was the last time you did absolutely nothing? Nothing productive, actual nothing. No phone, no podcast, no multitasking. No, I'm just going to fold the laundry while I rest. No, I'm relaxing on a walk, but also listening to a self improvement audiobook. Actual, real, unproductive, just sitting there, nothing. Most people I ask can't remember. They have to go back years. Some of them have never done it. Some of them get a little panicky when I describe it. That is what we're talking about today. We're talking about the fact that an entire country has been taught that being awake means being productive, that rest is laziness, that stillness is suspect, that a life lived without constant output is somehow a life wasted. And we're talking about what that cost you, not in abstract terms, in the actual currency of your one life. So buckle up. This one's a little heavier, but I think we need it. Part 1. The quiet bargain nobody asked you to sign. Here's the bargain. Most of us made it before we knew we were making it. The bargain goes like this: be productive now, sacrifice the present, defer rest, defer joy, defer the trip you want to take, defer the hobby you want to pick up, defer the friendships you want to deepen, defer the slow morning, defer the lazy Saturday, defer your one life. And in exchange, eventually, someday, you'll get all of that back. When you retire, when the kids are older, when the job calms down, when you make more money, when things get easier, when the house is paid off, when you finish school, when you get the promotion, when the project ends, pick your when. We all have one. Sometimes we have several stacked up. The bargain says there's a version of your life waiting for you, and it's just on the other side of all this work. You just have to earn it. Y'all, I want to be real here because I've made this bargain myself more than once in different versions. So I'm not standing above this, but I have to tell you what I've learned, both as a clinician and as a person watching my own life pass me by. The bargain is not real. Nobody is holding your life for you in a safe somewhere. There is no future version of you who gets handed the saved up years on our 65th birthday. Time does not work that way. The years you sacrifice are gone. They are not waiting for you. They are not coming back. And the cruelest part of the bargain is that the people who designed it knew this. The systems that benefit from your endless productivity, the corporations, the institutions, the culture itself, they know that promising you a future of rest is the most effective way to extract a present of work. Because if the bargain were honest, if somebody said to you at 22, hey, we're going to ask you to work as hard as you possibly can for the next 45 years. You will be exhausted most of the time. You will miss most of your kids' childhoods. You will defer almost everything you actually want to do. And at the end, you will be too tired and too broken and too sick to do most of the things you said you'd do later. If somebody told you that at 22, would you sign up? No, of course you wouldn't. So they don't tell you that. They tell you about the someday. They tell you about the retirement. They tell you about the freedom on the other side. They make sure you keep walking because the moment you stop and look around, the deal falls apart. That's what we're doing today. We're stopping, we're looking around. Part 2, the timeline they have you on. Let me walk you through what the productivity timeline actually looks like, because when you see it laid out, it's genuinely shocking how complete it is. Productivity in America starts at 8 weeks old. I want to repeat that because most people don't realize it. 8 weeks. There are babies in daycare in this country who aren't even old enough to track an object with their eyes yet, and they're in a system being raised in a structured environment while their parents go back to work. And let me give you a number that actually matters here. The United States is the only country in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or otherwise called the OECD, out of 38 wealthy developed nations that does not guarantee paid maternity leave. The OECD average is 18 and a half weeks. The US offers 0. We're in a category with Papua New Guinea and a handful of small island nations. That's it. So if you're wondering why American moms put their babies in daycare at 8 weeks old, the answer is most of them have no choice. The federal law gives 12 weeks of unpaid leave, and only about 60% of workers even qualify for that. If you can't afford 12 weeks of zero income, which most people can't, you go back sooner. That's the entry point. That's where the productivity treadmill begins. Then we move into school, which is its own kind of productivity. 6 or 7 hours a day of structured work, plus homework, plus, for a lot of kids, a sport, or 2 sports, or a sport and an instrument, or a sport and an instrument in a foreign language, or a sport and an instrument and a foreign language and a math tutor and a summer enrichment program. Now, I want to be clear here, because I'm not saying activities are bad. They aren't. Kids genuinely benefit from learning new things, being part of teams, having access to music and sports and language. Those are good things. But there's a difference between some structured activities and a calendar so packed that a child doesn't have a single hour of unscheduled time from age 5 to age 18. Kids need unstructured time, not as a luxury, as a developmental requirement. Boredom is how kids develop creativity. Free play is how they develop social skills. Quiet is how they learn to be with themselves. We've engineered all of that out of childhood in favor of optimization, and we're seeing the cost in skyrocketing rates of anxiety and depression in young people. Then they hit 18, and the deal continues. Now you go to college, where you take on debt that requires you to be productive for decades to pay back, or you go directly to work. Either way, you're working. And then you work, and you work, and you work for 40 years, 45 years, sometimes 50. And here's the part that genuinely breaks my heart as a clinician. At the end of it, after all that work, after all that deferred living, there is research showing that depression rates in retirees increase by roughly 40% in the first few years after they stop working. 40%. People retire and they get depressed, not because they don't have enough money, though sometimes that's true too. They get depressed because they've spent their entire adult life building an identity around producing for an employer. And when the producing stops, the identity goes with it. They sit at home with all the free time they finally have, and they don't know what to do with it because nobody taught them, because the system never gave them time to develop interests outside of work, because productivity culture stole the very thing it promised to give back. That's the timeline. Cradle to retirement. Productivity all the way through, with the promise of rest at the end, that when it finally arrives, you don't even know what to do with it. Part 3. 2 treadmills. Now I want to slow down for a minute and acknowledge something, because what I've been describing so far, the overscheduled kid, the college path, the career, the retirement, that's a particular version of American life. And I want to be honest about that. The truth is, productivity culture hits everyone in America, but it hits different people differently. There are at least 2 treadmills running in this country, and they both grind people down. They just grind them in different ways. Treadmill 1, the middle class optimization treadmill. This is the one I've been describing. The overscheduled kids, the college track, the career, the mortgage, the 5-day-a-week structured childcare, the travel soccer, the advanced placement classes, the sense that every minute of your child's day should be building towards something, the sense that every minute of your day should be building towards something. If you're on this treadmill, your suffering is real. The pressure is real. The exhaustion is real. The way you've lost touch with what you actually want is real. I'm not minimizing any of it. The middle-class productivity treadmill is one of the most efficient systems ever designed for converting whole human beings into output. Treadmill 2, the survival treadmill. This is a different kind of grinding, and there are millions of Americans on it. 2 jobs or 3, gig work, DoorDash on top of a day job, cleaning houses on weekends, cash work after hours, no paid vacation ever, no sick days, no retirement plan to speak of, health insurance that doesn't actually cover anything, kids in school care that ends at 3 because there's no money for after-school programs, boredom built in, not by design, but by exhaustion, because when you do have a day off, you don't have the energy to do anything anyways. If you're on this treadmill, your suffering is also real, and it's a particular kind of cruel, because you don't have the option of slowing down. You're not over-optimizing. You're running because if you stop, the lights go off. And here's what I want to say about both of these. Productivity culture wants you to think these two groups have nothing in common. It wants the middle-class person to think the working-class person just needs to work harder. And it wants the working-class person to roll their eyes at middle-class people complaining about their corporate jobs and their kids' overscheduled lives. But the system is the same. The system tells both groups that their worth is their output. The system tells both groups that rest is for after. The system tells both groups that there's no time to live, just to produce. The difference is whether the productivity is being extracted from you to maintain a lifestyle or extracted from you to keep you alive. But the extraction is the same. So when I talk about productivity culture today, I'm talking about both of you. Different versions of the same trap, with different specifics, but the same underlying message. You exist to produce. Rest is something you have to earn, and earn, and earn, and then maybe, if you're lucky, get a small taste of before you die. Part 4, the receipts. Okay, let me give you some receipts, because this is the part where the data backs up what your body has been telling you for years. Americans take about 14 days of vacation per year, on average. Europeans, on average, take about 24. That gap is 10 days. 2 full work weeks per year, every year, for your entire working life. Of life that you don't get to live, that Europeans on average do. And here's the part that's genuinely staggering. The US doesn't even guarantee vacation. There's no federal law requiring employers to give workers paid time off. 0 days. None. The number of mandated vacation days in the United States is the same as in Papua New Guinea, which is to say, 0. In most European countries, paid vacation is guaranteed by law. 20 days minimum in much of Western Europe, 25 days in places like France and Denmark. The UK gives 28, Estonia gives more. And it's not just that. 40% of American workers say their workload prevents them from even taking the vacation days they technically have. They have the days, they cannot use them, because work doesn't stop just because they leave for a week. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Maybe we work more because we're more productive. Maybe American productivity justifies the hours, right? Wrong. Here's the data I can't stop thinking about. There's an OECD ranking of the most productive countries in the world, measured in output per hour worked. The US is 12th. 11 countries are more productive per hour than we are. And every one of those 11 countries gives workers significantly more vacation than American businesses do. Norway, Luxembourg, Ireland, Germany, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, all of them work fewer hours than Americans. All of them get more vacation. All of them are more productive per hour, not less. Let's listen to that sentence again. Working fewer hours is associated with higher productivity, not lower. The whole American work yourself into the grave model is not even efficient. We are not getting more done by working more. We are getting less done per hour while working more total hours, while having less of a life. That is not a trade-off. That is just a bad deal. And the people who benefit from that bad deal are not you. They are the corporations and shareholders who extract more total output by keeping workers exhausted and disposable. The system is not failing. The system is working exactly as designed. You're just the input. Part 5. What it actually does to a human. I want to step back from the data for a few minutes because I want to talk about what living inside this actually does to a person, to you, to me. When you spend your entire life optimizing for productivity, your nervous system never gets to settle, ever. It is always braced for the next task, the next email, the next deadline, the next demand. It learns to live in a low-grade fight or flight state. That state becomes your baseline. You stop noticing how revved up you are because you have nothing to compare it to. And when you finally do get a break, a vacation, a weekend, a few hours, your nervous system doesn't know how to relax. It just keeps running. You sit on the beach feeling vaguely guilty. You go to bed but can't sleep because your brain's still working. You take Friday off and find yourself somehow reorganizing the garage. That isn't a quirk. That's what happens to a body that's been told for 20, 30, or 40 years that being still is dangerous. Your body believed it. Your body is still believing it. And here's what the research shows about that. People who never learned how to rest, who never developed any identity outside of work, when they finally hit retirement, they don't relax. They crash. Studies show that retirement-related depression jumps significantly in the first few years after work ends. People become anxious, isolated, lost. They feel like they don't matter anymore because nobody's paying them to matter. Their whole sense of who they are was built around producing. And when the producing stops, the self goes with it. Listen, I want to ask you something. Take a second to actually think about it. Outside of what you do for work, who are you? If you took your job away, took your titles away, took your achievements and your responsibilities and your role as the reliable one who handles everything, what would be left? What do you like? What lights you up? What would you spend a Tuesday afternoon doing if literally nothing was expected of you? If that question is hard to answer, you're not broken. You're exactly what the system was designed to produce. Productivity culture doesn't just take your time. It takes your capacity to be a person in your own life. It shrinks who you are down to what you do. And the longer you live under it, the smaller you get, until eventually you can't remember what you used to be interested in, what you used to dream about, what you wanted before all the wanting got crowded out by all the doing. That is the deepest cost, and it almost never gets named. You can rebuild. I want to say that. People who have lost touch with themselves can find themselves again. I see it happen slowly through deliberate, often uncomfortable practice, through therapy, through actual rest, through difficult, real conversations with people who love them. It's possible. But the first step is admitting that this is what's happened, that you've been so productive for so long that the producer has eaten the person. That admission is hard because productivity is the thing we get praised for. Nobody throws a party for someone who took a real Sunday off. Nobody gives an award for the person who quit one of their 3 side hustles to read a novel. The reward system is rigged towards more, always more, forever more. But the cost of more, eventually, is you. Part 6. The Lie of Later. I want to come back to the bargain, the one we started with. Be productive now, get your life later. Because the cruelest part of that bargain isn't even the work, it's the waiting, the constant low-grade waiting for life to start. We keep hoping things will get better, financially, romantically, when the kids are older, when the kids are out of the house, when work calms down, when I lose weight, when I get the promotion, when I finish the degree, when I save up enough. And the years go by. And the things we said we'd do when we had time don't get done. Because the time doesn't come. Because somehow, when one thing gets easier, 3 other things get harder. And the excuses pile up. Not because we're lazy, but because we're tired. Because we've used everything we have on the producing, and there's nothing left over for the living. You know what I see in my office more than almost anything else? People in their 40s, 50s, and 60s realizing that they did not live the lives they wanted to live. Realizing that the things they kept promising themselves they would do didn't get done. Realizing that there was never going to be a magic moment when everything calmed down enough for them to start. That moment was supposed to come, and it didn't. And now they're looking at the time they have left, and they're trying to figure out how to compress 30 years of unlived life into whatever years they have remaining. And let me tell you, as a clinician, that conversation breaks me every single time because nobody meant for it to go this way. They were just doing what they were told, working hard, being responsible, putting their families first, putting the job first, putting everyone and everything ahead of their own one and only finite life. And the bargain whispered to them the whole time that it was worth it, that the payoff was coming, that the rest was earned, that the joy was deferred. And then the rest never showed up, or it showed up too late, in too small a portion, when their body could no longer enjoy it. I want to say something plainly, and I want you to actually hear it. This is your one life. Not a draft, not a rehearsal, not a warm-up for the real one that starts later. This, the day you're listening to this podcast, the week you're inside of, the year you're inside of, the body you're currently in. This is the one. There is no other one. If you keep deferring it, eventually you'll run out of later. And the saddest version of a human life is the one that gets to the end and realizes that none of it was lived, that it was all in service of a future that never arrived, that the bargain was a lie, that the rest was extracted and not returned. You don't have to live that life. You're allowed to start living the real one now, even in small ways, even in tiny corners of the calendar, Even if you can't quit your job and move to a cabin, you can start now. Not because the conditions are right, because you only have one life and the conditions might never be right. Part 7. Brief direction, not a prescription. I'm not going to give you a 5-step plan today because productivity culture would love a 5-step plan. It would optimize the 5 steps. It would turn the rest into another item on the to-do list. I'm not interested in giving the system another way to extract from you, but I want to leave you with a few small directions, not as homework, but as invitations. 1. Notice when you're doing the bargain. Catch yourself the next time you say, I'll do that when. I'll rest when. I'll see my friends when. I'll start the thing when. Notice the when. Notice that the when is doing all the heavy lifting. The bargain is held together by all the whens. The minute you start seeing them, they start losing power. 2. Start small, embarrassingly small. If your nervous system has been bracing for 40 years, you can't suddenly take a 6-month sabbatical. You'd hate it. Your body wouldn't know what to do. Start with 10 minutes, an hour, a real lunch break with no phone, a Sunday afternoon where you do absolutely nothing. Let your nervous system slowly remember that it's allowed to settle. 3. Reclaim something you used to love, even one thing. Most people, if you ask them what they liked before all this, can remember. They like drawing or hiking or playing guitar or reading novels or being outside or making bread. Whatever it was, pick one thing. Start small. Don't try to be good at it. Just do it without monetizing it, without making it a side hustle, without making it impressive. Just for you, as an act of protest against a culture that wanted you to forget that you had interests. 4. Be skeptical of advice that wants you to optimize your rest. If somebody tells you how to maximize the productivity of your relaxation, run. The whole point of rest is that it doesn't have a goal. The whole point of stillness is that it doesn't produce anything. Anything that turns rest into another performance is just productivity culture in a softer outfit. 5, and the last one, the hardest one. Believe that you don't have to earn your life. You don't have to deserve rest. You don't have to qualify for joy. You don't have to perform enough to get permission to be a person. The producing was always optional. You signed up for it before you knew you had a choice. You have a choice now, not all at once, not in some dramatic act of leaving everything behind, but in small, daily, accumulating acts of refusing to give up your one life to a system that wasn't going to give it back. Closing. Let me bring this home. Productivity culture took something from all of us, some of us more than others, none of us untouched. It told us our worth was our output. It told us rest was lazy. It told us our value would be measured in deliverables. It told us that if we just worked hard enough now, we'd get to live later. And it was lying about all of it. There is no later coming. The years you spend earning your life are the years of your life. The deferred joy doesn't get reimbursed. The unlived life doesn't get a second chance. This is it. This is the one. The Tuesday afternoon you are in right now, the conversation with your kid that you keep saying you'll have when work calms down, the hobby you keep saying you'll pick up, the friend you keep meaning to call, the trip you keep planning to take, The slow Saturday you keep promising yourself, none of it is waiting for you. All of it is here, right now. And the only question is whether you're going to live it or keep handing it over to a system that was never going to hand it back. You are not a machine. You are not a unit of output. You are not your job. You are not your productivity. You are a person who is right now alive with a finite number of days, and you don't owe a single one of them to anyone but yourself. Y'all, thanks for sitting with me through a heavy one today. I needed to say this one. I think a lot of us needed to hear it, including, frankly, me. If anything in this hit you, send it to someone who needs it. And then, maybe, go do nothing for 10 minutes. Take care of yourselves. And when you can, take care of each other.